Hi, hello, and how do you do? Welcome to my channel. My name is Shakia, and I'm a Certified Sisterlocks Consultant, welcoming you on this DIY Sisterlocks journey with me. It took 5 days total, and your girl is exhausted. I'm going to take you down memory lane just a quick bit so you can see what my previous set looked like. One of the main reasons I cut them is just being an actress and not feeling like I knew what to do with my hair going on set. Sometimes the hairstylist didn't know what to do with my hair, and it started to feel like my sister locks got in the way. And having a shortcut worked as an actress. They could put wigs on and it was just easier. But I miss them. So this is me getting a little anxious and trying to, I don't know what I tried to do, interlock a piece to see. Still not enough. This is 2.5 inches. I just measured it. So I think I need 3. I think I need at least 3.5 inches to feel safe, just because I do have some, my edges aren't super thin, but they are not thick. And the texture of my hair up here is definitely, I think, ready. It's more of my edges that I know will unravel. So it is September. I haven't had a big chop. My last big chop was in May. May? Yes. March. So, what is that? 6 months of growth. It took 6 months to get to 2.5 inches, and it was like short, very, very to the scalp. So 6 months to grow 2.5 inches. So I'm gonna guess November. So after having my locks for about 7 years, I decided to big chop, and then my hair was short for maybe 2 years. I think I cut it in 2023, 2022. So about 2.5 years my hair has been big chopped, and I kept it short, especially through postpartum with the baby. Just life was easier. But as my hair started to grow out, I knew I wanted sister locks again. There were different reasons other than being an actress that I cut my hair. One of my main issues was my hair in the front is a much finer texture than the back, and I felt like my locks were just a little too small. Everyone loves the tiny locks, but for me in particular, the longer they got, some of them, the thinner they got, and then they started to break, they started to pop. I had to combine certain locks, and I just didn't like that my grid was all over the place in the process of combining them. So I said if I established my locks, I would do them a lot larger. Not a lot larger, just, a little larger. So I started with, once my hair hit about 3.5 inches, I was ready. So one of my first steps was to blow my hair out, shampoo my hair with moisturizing shampoo, because that would probably be the last time I use it, and then blow it out just so it could be a little stretched. I didn't comb it out, I just blow dried it to a stretched state, but I didn't comb through the knots because we need those knots at the end. Just showing you a little bit of the supplies I used. Usually with sister locks, we don't use locking gel or twisting gel, but because my hair is so short, I wanted to use a tiny bit along the scalp just to hold them in place, and a little bit towards the ends to hold them in place. But once I actually do my first shampoo, I won't be using twisting gel after that. I just wanted to make sure that they would hold. So a few of my supplies, the African parting tool is I use it for my establishments, but also on my hair, it gets my parts as crisp as possible. The second thing that I think is the most important is nails. I always get my nails done before I establish someone else's hair. I want a pointy, either stiletto or almond shaped nail to make sure I can part my hair easily. I actually part my hair with my fingers the first go round, just because sometimes parting with a comb, it can cause a lot of tension on the scalp, a lot of just pressure on the scalp, putting that comb to scalp. So I'll just do a finger separation through each section. And honestly, with pointed nails, you can get the parts kind of straight. I'm narrating this as we go, so my narration just might be all over the place, which is fine. But I'm using the Sisterlocks grid, which is, at first I was going to do just a simple Microlocs grid, but I actually like the Sisterlocks grid. I like the flexibility you get from them. And it's easier because you can part it into a lot more sections than just Microlocs. I think with Microlocs, there's just a part down the middle, 2 big sections in the back, versus with the Sisterlocks grid, it allows you to make like, what is that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12, almost 12 sections in the back, especially once you add the subsections and the mini sections, which is something I definitely wanted to do, because the smaller the sections you can put them in, the easier it is to target and to kind of just feel like you're making progress. So here you will see me pretty much finger parting my hair and putting them into rubber band sections. Another tool I decided to use was the pink and green interlocking tool. Once I finish, not once I finish, but once my hair is longer, I will transition to another tool. It's called the Easy Lock tool. That's the one I used when my hair was actually long, because it's a little bendable. It's plastic, I want to say, as opposed to a metal tool. But this interlocking tool helps a lot with shorter hair. So like I said, my hair is only 3.5 inches. The recommended length is 4 inches. But y'all, I was anxious. I was very anxious, and Thanksgiving week just seemed like the perfect week. It was slow. School is slow. I'm also a cosmetology student, so there's that. I wanted to get this done before cosmetology school got crazy, because I'll be in cosmetology school for 7 more months, and I want to grow my hair out, but I thought if I wait to lock my hair 7 months from now, it's going to be maybe 6 inches, and that may seem nice, but that could take longer to do. And I feel like at this length, it'll be easier to catch any slippage, and my hair will lock faster at this state, and I'll be able to make any corrections necessary a lot quicker to get the locks started in the right place. And honestly, by the time I'm done with cosmetology school, I'm hoping my locks will be mostly settled and slippage won't be a problem. But one of my biggest fears right now is slippage, especially in the front. So I'm probably going to wait 2 weeks to wash my hair instead of the recommended 7 to 10 days. I'll probably wait 14 days. And I'm thinking I won't even shampoo it in the shower. I might just do it at the sink with like spray bottles and things like that, just so the water pressure doesn't kind of overwhelm the tiny locks. You saw that previous video where I put in test locks. My hair is very fine in the front, and then in the back it's like the front is maybe I want to say the front is like 3C 4A along the edges, and then the middle is like 4B. I don't think I have any 4C textures. I might, maybe right there in that middle part might be 4C-ish, but I think it's still 4B because when it's wet, it's a lot softer. But as you can see, parting with your fingers is the quickest and easiest way to go for precision and just to minimize the amount of tension you're putting on your scalp. parting with the comb while your hair is not detangled can be difficult, and your fingers just allow you to get closer to the scalp without the risk of scratching or puncturing the skin or anything like that. So get you some almond shaped nails. I do have a video showing how I did my Gel X nails myself. It's something we're learning in cosmetology school, but I've honestly been doing it for about a year now, because when I'm doing an establishment, I want my nails done, and a lot of the girls out here don't do the best job with Gel X nails, because after an establishment a nail will pop off. But I did my establishment and an establishment 2 days later, and it's been 2 weeks now, and I still have my Gel X nails on. So if you want to know how to put on good Gel X nails, please watch that video. It's little tricks I learned in cosmetology school that I think made all the difference. But yes, having some type of nails, it also helps not just with the pre-parting, but you'll see with the interlocking process that having nails makes it a lot easier. So whether I'm doing my hair or whether I'm doing a client's hair, blunt fingernails just don't. If a woman is moving too slow, and she doesn't have on nails on, that's probably why. Like, the nails really help you make more precise insertions in between each interlock, which is pretty much where you're going from, where you're doing, like, okay, if you're doing a 4-point rotation, making sure you're entering in through the center of the lock as opposed to a little bit off center. Like, nails help with precision. So yeah, we're just going through the pre-parting phase, just so you can see what each section is going to look like. Now, once I finish pre-parting with my fingers, I will go back with the African parting tool, or with a fine I'll probably just use the tool to make the parts more precise. This is just an easier way to get them into sections, and then as I enter each section is where you kind of start to clean up the parts a bit. But I recommend that even if you are doing an establishment on someone else, for consultants out there, pre-parting is essential. A lot of people, especially consultants, they want to just jump right in and do the first lock. They're so anxious to just do it. And I get that. It's exciting. You're about to start someone's locks. But in my experience, seeing the whole head and seeing the entire grid it helps me personally. That's why I think my parts are so precise. It's because I don't mind going through and parting the entire head. It also helps you see if the client has any, like, a shifting scalp, because I have that as well, where I'll part a certain section and it looks perfect, but then it looks like it's not perfect. It looks like the line is leaning to the left a bit or leaning to the right a bit. And even at the end, I still feel like my parts are not perfect. But then I thought, even when I'm doing someone else's establishment, the parts are not always perfect. I think someone told me locks are your locks are twins. It's kind of like women's breasts. They say your breasts are fraternal twins. They're not identical. They will not look exactly the same, but the goal is uniformity and precision overall. So I try to keep that in mind, that no, it doesn't have to be perfect. Every line is not going to be perfect, especially since I'm doing it on my own. But the most important thing to me was having a grid I could see, because I did not have that before. I felt like my grid was not precise, and having a healthy size lock. So many women want 600 locks, 700 locks, but can your head hold 700 locks and they still be healthy? Can you afford a retightening for 700 locks? Because you can't expect a 2 to 3 hour retightening with 700 locks. You're going to be in the chair about 5-6 hours. Can you afford that? So there's so many things that go into the grid. But for me, the grid being precise and being lined up is more about making sure you have the correct amount of locks on each side. That's something that's very important for sister locks, is just symmetry. But then also, it gives each lock the opportunity to have its own space. If you do a lock too big over on the left side, that may affect a lock on the right side that may end up being too small. And now you've got one lock that's too big, one lock that's too small, one lock that's going to swell up more over time, one lock that's going to get thinner and possibly break over time. So, like I said, perfection is not realistic, but getting as close to perfect as you can. So right now I'm going in, and you can see as I line up the as I line up the parts, you want to make sure every line is straight. Sometimes the line is straight, but is it horizontal or is it diagonal? Sometimes diagonal is a very subtle diagonal, but that subtle diagonal line can affect a few locks to where the locks to the top section here are a lot thicker, and then they get thinner and thinner and thinner, and then once you get started, you're like, oh no, I'm running out of space, or oh no. So even in the process of locking, I had to take a couple down to fix a line, because I realized, oh, that line is not quite straight. So one of the most important parts here, I'm going to go in with the hair gel, hair paste, twisting paste, and just slick down my roots a bit, because I have some flyaways. And this also helps for when you have short hair, to just lay down the hair in certain sections so that you can really see what that part looks like. When your hair is fuzzy and short, it can be hard to see. So this is going to help just lay down the hairs so that they're out the way, and I can make sure that the part is as straight as it needs to be. One of the first parts I made was the back part, but when I'm doing an establishment, the most important part doesn't have to be your first part, but the most important part to me, I would say, is your middle part and your ear to ear part. So your middle part going from, not even the back, because the back can be perfect, but even if it's not, it's like, okay. But that middle part, getting that middle part as precise as you can, and it's the hardest part to get straight, because especially if you have a shifting scalp, sometimes one day it's this way, one day it's that way. You gain a little bit of weight, is to the left. You lose a little weight, is to the right. So many things can affect your scalp, because your scalp is ultimately skin. But making sure that middle part is as straight as possible, and then your vertical ear to ear part, making sure that part is as vertical as possible. Sometimes we make the mistake, and that ear to ear part is leaning back, but we want to make sure it is going straight across the top of your head. So right now I'm just making sure that middle part is laid down. I'm adding a little bit more gel just to hold it in place. And this is a very natural gel, so it shouldn't leave any white residue or buildup. I use this on some of my Microlocs clients who have very, very, very soft hair, just to kind of hold that retightening in place a little bit. But like I said, this will be the last time I use this product. When I had my previous set of locks, I did not use a single product except the Sisterlocks shampoo and the herbal spray once my hair locked. And that was just because it smelled so good. But I literally just sprayed my hair with water or the herbal spray and the starter shampoo. And I used the starter shampoo for the first 5 years. And then after that, I switched to the green tea shampoo. And honestly, I used the starter shampoo because I had it and I didn't want to buy anything else. And I had a supply that I would always have extra bottles for my clients. And a lot of my clients didn't like it. So if they didn't use it, I just ended up using it. And I just would have bottles and bottles of starter shampoo. So some people don't like it, but it worked for me. And that's what I used because I am a less is more kind of girl. So here is where you'll see me getting that ear to ear part as vertical as possible. So as you can see, there's a little bit of hair that is extra that I'm going to move to the back. But ultimately, you want that ear to ear part as straight as possible. It's one of the most difficult parts to get straight because people naturally have this part leaning back a bit. But you want it going directly across the top. And sometimes it may look like you're putting less locks in the front, but that's why the locks in the front are sometimes a lot smaller. And of course, Sisterlocks tends to follow a grid pattern of small in the front, medium towards the top, large in the mid back, then medium, the lower back, then small at the nape. That tends to be the approach. But we also have to take into account hair density. But that follows the approach that people's hair, most people's hair tends to be more dense, less dense in the front. Even you can see towards that side part that I have less density, even in that section. My hair is a lot fuller in the middle. And honestly, the last set of locks I had, the middle section, the middle back locked faster. The front, if the back took maybe a year to lock, the front took an extra 3 years to lock. It took forever for the front to lock, partially because they were so tiny. But here I'm creating subsections in the front as well, just to make it easier. These subsections are not necessary, especially if you're establishing someone else's locks. But for the sake of my hair and just being a bit more precise, I'm going to create subsections in the front and turning those two sections to the left and 2 sections to the right into 4 sections. So a total of 8 sections in the front, which will just make it easier to be more precise and to get an even number of locks going forward. Another thing is that section, the front section that's further to the back, is going to be more dense, a higher density, versus the ones closer to the hairline are going to be less dense, which is going to require sometimes maybe a different locking pattern. Or for the purpose of this, I'm going to do the 4 rotation because it's the tightest rotation. But next retightening, or once my hair matures, I may want to transition to a 3-point rotation for the hairline, just to make those look a lot fuller and open those up a bit, because even though I'm going to try to do them a little larger, I still feel like, now that I'm done, I can say this in hindsight, some of them still feel small. And they're Microlocs, they're supposed to feel small. But I still have a fear that they're gonna be too small, that they won't thicken up. And everybody thinks, like I said, that they want tiny locks until 5 years from now they start to pop, or they start to fall out because the foundation just isn't strong enough. So that's one of my main goals for this new set of locks. I ended with 321 locks, and then I took a couple down and was able to make one smaller. So now I have 322 locks, which I think is what I was aiming for, because my original set I had 400. I think it might have been like 407, and then I ended up combining quite a few, and then I ended up with 400, and then I think once I trimmed it into a bob, I think I combined a few more, especially around the edges, and then I was at like 398. So I feel like going into this new set and having a lot less locks, I think I'm in and also an official grid, I think I'm gonna have my forever set. The set that is healthier, a stronger foundation, a stronger and more precise grid, and the lock size will be a size that I can maintain for years to come without the risk of health and just overall strength of the lock. So I just think that's something we should all keep in mind as far as getting locks established is, do you want them to be small or do you want them to be healthy? And there is a fine line that you can cross in that realm. So I definitely want them small. I definitely want them micro. 322 locks is perfectly fine with me, considering I will be self-maintaining and retightening, and I have a 18-month-old at home. So yeah, locks is honestly the easiest route to take at this phase in my life, but it's honestly just the style I felt the most free and most, I don't know. I just loved my Sisterlocks before. I just got frustrated with how tiny they were, and I felt like they were too tiny when I first started. I felt like I was looking at them and I was like, I hope this thickens up. I hope this thickens up. And some of them, they just never thickened up. They got thinner and thinner and thinner and popped. Or they were hanging on by a strand. And once they're too thin and then you start trying to combine them, if you want a pretty clean grid, that can affect that. So sometimes the grid is, like I said, it is aesthetics. You do want, everybody loves the grid. Everybody wants the part straight. Yes, of course. But it's deeper than just aesthetics. It's about versatility. It's about being able to do a side part, being able to do a middle part, being able to do half up, half down, being able to style your hair. It enhances the stylability of your hair. And if you had to combine two to the left and then two to the right are fine, but two to the left aren't, now it's just throwing it off. Granted, that's also just a vanity thing, because traditional locks, a lot of times they don't go by a grid. A lot of them do freeform parting, and it's perfectly fine. So I guess I'm being a perfectionist and being a bit of I guess it's a privilege to be talking about parts and perfection. So there's that as well. So sometimes I keep that in mind, like, girl, it's not that serious. They're just locks. They're just parts. My dad has locks. He's had locks since I was 3 years old. And he's got freeform locks. He doesn't retwist them. He doesn't do anything. And that's just what it is. So even these sections, I'm trying to make sure, is that straight or is that bowing forward? So it's bowing a little forward, which can create a lack of symmetry going down. So even as I make my sections in part 2 of this video, you'll see I'm constantly revising the parts to try to get them as precise as possible. But once again, I'm not going for perfection, but I am going for precision as much as possible, and trying to make sure the base of the lock is thick enough. Now, because I've done well over 50 establishments, I can say that my first year as a consultant, I probably did 10 to 20 establishments. My second year, I did about 50 establishments. I did one, when I moved to Atlanta, I did one establishment every weekend for the entire year. I checked my calendar and I realized I did not take a single weekend off. Now, granted, I had days during the week off, so you don't really notice when you've got like 3 days off, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then every Saturday and Sunday you're doing an establishment. So I really just didn't notice until a new person was trying to book me and I didn't have any room on my calendar. And I was like, am I really that booked? Because I had 50 consistent clients. So my schedule for the month, for the next 6 weeks was pretty much booked up. And those were all clients I established myself. So I feel like I have a lot of experience when it comes to establishing locks, and I have a lot of experience when it comes to just the variation of scalps you might run into, the variation of textures you might run into, people with high density, people with low density, people with low to the flow density. And I realized where my hair and my texture falls into that category. And honestly, even in the process of looking at my scalp more in depth, I learned more about my hair and its density and what to expect. But this is just part 1. So stick around if you want to see more.